Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. I am JaiDei Jackson, and I have my awesome co host, Dr. Natasha LaMarr of the Wise Inc., with us. And today we will be talking about your spouse is not your child or your employee. What do you think about that as a topic, Dr. LaMarr?
Uh, I think it's a good topic. I like it. And I think sometimes, depending on your role in the relationship, your partner can be assumed or, fit the role depending on their role in the relationship as a child or as an employee. So I think it's a good topic, and I think it's appropriate to talk about because we need to take these things in consideration when we're picking a partner.
Absolutely. And especially if we are in a committed relationship or such as a marriage or a long term relationship. And we have to begin to look at what would have us even relate to our spouse as if they're a child. Because when we do that, we create this dangerous dynamic in the relationship. If I relate to my husband as if he's my child, then that means he's my son, and that's a surefire way to kill the intimacy, especially the sexual intimacy in a relationship.
Mhm.
What I've noticed is I think that my way to do things is the perfect and only way. And so if we begin to treat our spouse when they're doing something and we get frustrated and we treat them like, oh, you don't know how to do it, let me do it for you, or we're directing them on how to do it, versus there's more than one way to load the dishwasher.
Mm.
And versus unpacking it and then reloading it, it's like, no, are the dishes in there? Will they get clean? So, but what do you think about that when we relate to our spouse as if he or she is a child? It kills because then we put our spouse in a position of being our son or our daughter, and
Yeah.
that's not a healthy place for them to be.
So typically when a person is putting their partner in the place of a child, it's oftentimes due to the lack of respect. It's hard to
Mm.
put somebody in a child's place when you respect them or when they hold you accountable or hold their boundaries for respect. And I say that because um I can remember I can remember having some conversations with my husband, before we were even married, and just kind of his boundaries, like, wait a minute, like really setting some boundaries. So it made it very difficult for me to push past, even attempting to even try to put some of the stuff in place that I was trying to do. So I think it has a lot to do with respect. Unless someone's partner is just a mild-mannered person and they don't like confrontation, and then they may retreat with how they feel or what they think. But I feel like when a woman, and I'm gonna say a man too, when a man or a woman attempt to talk to their partner like they're a child, it's oftentimes due to the lack of respect. And something else that's popping in my mind. When an adult is in a relationship and they don't understand their contribution to the relationship, they can begin to be a dependent. They can begin to act like a child, like they're seeking permission for stuff, or they're seeking um for permission, or they're like, and it creates this overarching authority of the other person, as if they are the expert or they know more. And so that's why I think it's very important to understand what is your contribution to the relationship, so that you are not treating your partner, or you not being treated like a child. So those are my 2 cents. What are your thoughts?
Wow, you said a lot, and I love what you said. You said the authority or the expert. You said the boundaries, like you packed a lot in that, and I agree. The first place, and that's the what I would say to any the other person who's being treated as a spouse and even an employee, is to
Mhm.
stop and remind that individual, I do not work for you. and I am not your child, and that's a boundary. And what I heard you say, you need to establish that early on, because if
Mhm.
not, then what will end up happening is the person will keep pushing. Because if there is no boundary, then I'm going to keep moving forward,
Right.
because a boundary says stop, or at least proceed with caution, depending upon what type of boundary it is. And the other thing that I like that you said is about authority, because I do sometimes see on TikTok where someone is saying, let me ask my wife if I can go, right?
Mm, mm.
And so thereby now I'm asking permission, but who asks permission for something? That's a child. I'm not saying don't communicate. Let me check to see if we do not have any plans. But can I go? Is it all right if I go? Then I think that is seeking permission from that person,
Mhm.
because then that if they say no, then it's when my wife won't let me go, or my husband, doesn't want me to do that, versus actually relating to each other from a parental, not from a parental, from an adult to adult relationship.
Right.
So if I set myself as the authority, then yeah, I now will begin to feel the weight of this relationship as if I am the parent. And that's not healthy, because
Right.
now sit over there, don't say anything. That's how I begin to relate to you, because sometimes that's what we do to children. We treat them as if they have no voice, and I think that's what happens when that dynamic begins to happen. I think the other individual can lose their voice in the relationship. What do you
You
think?
know, I 100% agree, and I think it's so important because I think the way. So this is my idea. The way that you were parented has a lot to do with the way that you were partnered. So everybody's talking about this big thing about submission, and some people think that submission means to just do what somebody of authority tell you to do, or to cook and clean and go do this and do that and massage feet and just all this type of stuff. When they say women are supposed to be submissive, but submitting means to submit to authority, right? But it doesn't mean that you don't have authority as well as a woman. And when I think of a person treating their partner like a child, it makes me think of power. So there's a power differential between a parent and a child. But when you are two married people, even though if you are Christian and you have a biblical marriage, your husband is the head, right? So that means that he's responsible for certain things. And so I said that to say, when you don't have power, it's not a partnership. And I mean, both people have power and certain levels of power. And if you think about abusive relationships or controlling relationships, it's because there's a power differential, right? If you look at parenthood and child, there's a power differential. And so when you're in a relationship, when you're married or in a committed relationship, it's really about being able to balance, what that power look like, and nobody is over the other person, and nobody can make the other person do what the other person wants them to do. And I want to hit on this last point, because I get couples to say this all the time, and I thought about myself, even as when you said asking your partner for permission, right? If you have to ask for permission, then that's a power differential. Now, to check in and be like, babe, I'm going to you mind, you care. Interestingly enough, my husband got an invite to watch the basketball game yesterday. And he was like, baby, you care if I go? I was like, no. Ultimately, if he wanted to go, he definitely could have gone. But because Sunday was our time, I'm like, it's on us. But if he just said, babe, I just, so on and so forth, then it'd have been on him. So I said no, but I have no authority or power over him. He did have the ability to go. He didn't go, but I'm just saying. So I think that power piece is very important as well.
Yeah. And I like how you gave the example, because in that moment, that's showing respect. This was
Mhm.
our day, and he's like changing the plan. And so thereby he's asking you if it's okay if we
Right,
change, or if I, but I
right.
also like when you talked about the power differential, because you're absolutely right. When we begin to seek permission and asking for permission, then yeah, we are looking at, she has more power or he has more power than I do. And that does not create a healthy,
Mhm.
supportive, loving
Right.
relationship. The other thing is, maybe I need to drink a glass of water. When I think about in a relationship, there are things that each of us want accountability for. And I
Hmm.
like to refer to it as this is the area that I'm the strongest in. And because I'm the strongest in this area, I would like to have that accountability. And in having that accountability, we're still going to create what guidelines you need from me to give me that accountability. That's different than I'm doing this and you need to
Right.
do that, because now I'm directing as an employee. In other words, I need to ask your permission. Would you, can you, will you, versus do this, take this, come over here. Like, even though we shouldn't treat our employees that way, at the end of the day, the it's the mentality of I have no say, right? And what, in other words, you're not looking at me as I'm an individual and I have my free will in this situation.
Yeah.
I also like when we think about not treating our spouse as if they're our employee or our child, that it can restore a connection, and it can restore, as you said, an adult to adult relationship. Because if we find ourselves being frustrated and aggravated and annoyed, I can see us heading in that direction of wanting to right things. And however, we need to own what's going on between us. Because at the end of the day, if there's a differences of opinion, then we have to acknowledge I'm just having a difference of opinion
Right.
versus my way is the right way.
Right. 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 Um, I like that. I like the points that you're making, but now I'm gonna have to play devil's advocate, right? Because as you know, I do a lot of work with couples, and I see this sometimes. I think it's unfortunate and unfair when you treat your partner like an employee or when you treat them like a child. And this is the thing that I want to share, and it goes back to that power. It goes back to that power differential, right? So if you are a partner and you're doing everything, you paying all the bills, you making all the decisions, you keeping the house clean, you are doing everything. Again, that other partner begins to feel like a dependent, and I don't even want to say a child, but they begin to feel like a dependent, and so you begin to feel as if you have that authority. And so I say that to say, in a relationship, both parties have to come with a certain level of responsibility, with a role and obligation of what it is that they're supposed to do, so that the other person doesn't just feel the need to take the lead on everything. Now, some people are just strong willed, right? And there's nothing wrong with a strong willed person, but that is why it is important to understand who you are and what it is that you need in your relationship, so that does not happen, and make sure that your partner understand what their role and responsibility is in the relationship as well.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is when we relate to people as if they're incompetent versus establishing up front, these are the things that I
Hmm.
want to be accountable for.
Right.
And usually, when someone is accountable for the outcome, they will look at the people around them as being dependent.
Right.
And so, but indirectly, they are dependent because they're depending upon you to deliver that outcome.
Right.
However,
Right.
you have to still be reminded of they're not incompetent. They are capable. You're just saying, I see myself as being the bigger and the stronger person in this regard. And let me just get this thought out. Because the thing that I think about, is it possible to be doing everything? And if you find yourself in your relationship doing everything, I believe um, there's control going on, that the person who's doing everything is controlling the outcome because they don't trust that it's going to be done the way that they want it to be done versus it's getting done. Are the clothes washed? Is the bed made? Is the floor swept? Whatever it is, I'm not making up stuff. These are things that people do argue about.
Mhm.
However, at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, can I trust this person? And it has more to do, can I trust myself? Because when myself, that's one of my issues, is I'm controlling. And it has to do with my lack of trust. But my lack of trust is about me. It's not about the other person. I don't trust myself. And when I begin to trust that I've made a good choice, that the person that I'm with is worthy of my trust, then I can begin to relinquish the control. But you were getting ready to say something, and after that, go ahead.
I gotta put it out there. You made a lot of really, really good points, and I'm so glad that you put it back on yourself, because I feel like people project their stuff onto other people, and control has to do with you and not with other people. Control has to do with the individual, not necessarily with you and not with others. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes we marry people that are not competent. And you said sometimes people are not incompetent. Well, sometimes they are. Sometimes people are incompetent, but this is what I want to share. If you've married someone that is incompetent, that speaks more about you and not your partner. Like, what is happening that you're marrying someone who is not capable of doing much, right? So I just want to throw that out there, because there are some partners that are incompetent. There are some people who don't know how to do certain things. Are you going to help them, raise them up to where you think they should be? Because if not, there will be a power differential. But again, I'm wondering, why would you be in a relationship with someone where you feel that they are beneath you? So I just wanted to put that out there, because I thought that was a really, really good point that you made. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right at the end, you like threw something out there. I love it, Joe, because that way we leave our listeners with this. Okay, what else? Tune in for more conversations with us, knowing and growing. Once again, I am JaiDei Jackson, and
this is Dr. LaMarr with the Wives Inc.
we'll see you on the next go round. Bye.